Hey, welcome to the class. I'm Kirk Sigurdsson, your instructor. That's right, it's Sigurdsson. Pronunciation, the stress is on the first syllable, not the second syllable. A lot of people don't realize the Germanic languages like Swedish, of course, German. English is a Germanic language. It's not a Latin language. Can you believe that? It's true. It has a lot of Latinate words, right? But the actual language is based on Anglo-Saxon. I studied it in graduate school and a little bit in undergraduate, and a little bit too. My dad is actually Icelandic, so the Icelandic language is very much like Old Norse, and Old Norse is extremely similar to Anglo-Saxon. So, yeah, I'm well aware that English is not a Latin language. So as in a lot of pronunciations of the words that have more than two syllables in the original, English words, not the Latinate words that were brought into the language, much later, respectively speaking. Names are like that too. So the Germanic, they tend to get things done, Sigurdsson, not Sigurdsson. I've gotten Shirtson. I've gotten Sequarlson. And some people just glaze over. Americans really can't handle Scandinavian last names. And Sigurdsson is literally the Smith of Norway and Iceland. It's the most common last name because Sigurd is the most common first name. It's up there anyway. And before I forget, let me introduce you to our class mascot. Come here, Ola. Come here. Come here. She pretty much is motivated by food, and I don't have any. But I thought I would introduce her to you. She's our class mascot this term. You won't see her very much, though. She's a cute little thing. And she's a Basenji. And she went for a long walk today, so she's very tired. And she looks kind of old and decrepit, but she's actually very young and peppy and vivacious. She's just very tired. All right. There you go. So a little about moving into the class. You're going to have your introductions, and I want you to, with your introductions, please do read the directions, because I would say that for the class introductions, one of the main things that you're going to learn from this assignment is that directions do matter. I don't want you to go on autopilot and just do whatever. I talk a little bit about this in the computer side chat for discussion 1. But I'll touch on it here too, and that is that with the introductions, please don't just go on autopilot and write what you write for all your classes. It's a unique assignment. It's something about you that's unique, actually. So the assignment's unique. It's talking about something unique about you. The reason why I do that is so that you'll actually use the analytical and creative side of your brain instead of the autopilot, which is the reptilian complex. I talk a little bit about that in my lecture on the discussions in general for discussion 1. And I like you to get creative. Use these frontal lobes. You can use them. Our society has been dumbed down to the extent that people aren't as used to using the frontal lobes as the reptilian complex. Ironically, the frontal lobes are almost completely bypassed by psychopaths and sociopaths. So in a way, our society is becoming more sociopathically oriented. And sociopaths, just for whatever reason, either through trauma in childhood or they're just born with not as much access to the frontal lobes, they tend to use almost completely the reptilian complex. It doesn't make them stupid. It just makes them, they lack creativity and they lack empathy and sympathy. And to them, it doesn't feel like they lack these things. They just see them as unimportant. But to the rest of us, we realize that empathy and sympathy and spirituality are actually really important. And so, feeling that being in tune with other living things and wishing the best for them, and not feeling competitive about every little thing, that comes from the frontal lobes, as does unselfish love and compassion, things like that. So the frontal lobes are important to me for many reasons. I think that society is better off when people are in touch with their frontal lobes, and I also think their writing benefits to a huge degree. And so with these introductions, use your frontal lobes. Be a little creative. Think about something unique about yourself and write about that. And don't just spill out the typical spiel about your name, rank, serial number, occupation, familial status. A lot of people will gush a little bit about how much they love their kids and pets and family. And, that is, to a large extent, that is actual frontal lobe stuff. But it's ironically not the frontal lobe stuff I'm hoping for on this. What I'm hoping for is something a little bit more unique that you can kind of have an artistic, bent with it and try to pursue something about yourself in an artistic way. Because, we're all artists. It's just a question of how much we've developed that artistic side of our brain and how much we're willing to try to go there. So with these introductions, do try to go there and try to be creative and don't just gush out the typical introductory material. And looking through week 1, we've got that introduction. Make sure you read the whole introduction. You're going to be reading my little lecture on writer's block, how to overcome writer's block, little introduction to economic hitmen. And I would say that generally speaking that this week, you've got a little bit more this week because you've got to kind of get your, sea legs going in terms of just being acclimated to the class and used to it. And maybe a little bit more work this week than say like next week or before you start Essay 1. So don't be freaked out and think, well, there's a lot of stuff in here. It looks like more than it really is. And so I would say a couple hours for week 1, should get you through it. And it just depends on how fast you write, right? So everybody writes at a different clip. And so I would just say, do try to read through these materials from beginning to end. And then if you have any questions, I'm totally here for you. And, I'm really happy to answer emails and stuff like that. Just not emails that indicate that you haven't read through the materials and you just say, I don't understand this. If, say, for instance, there's an assignment and I get an email and it says, I don't understand what to do for Essay 1. That's just not specific enough. What that says to me is that you didn't take the care to read the directions and you're just kind of lazy. So saying you don't understand something isn't really a good excuse. But what is a good, I don't want to say it's a good excuse. What is a good reason to ask questions and elicit something I'm really happy to give, which is instructor-student, dynamic there in terms of it being interactive and everything. What is good is if you have specific questions about the directions that you don't understand, then boom, Kirk is on it, just like Mercury, just like the god Mercury. Whew, that email will come right out to you. If you say, I don't understand, what am I supposed to do? Then I'll just be like, oh boy, okay. How do I tactfully say, please read the directions and offer specific questions? Over 15 years or so, I've gotten really good at being diplomatic that way. Before I used to say, please read the directions. And then even if you say please in front of it, in this day and age, people on their computer, they'd be like offended. They'd be like, what is he saying? Please read the directions. And then they'll be like, I thought your response was very rude, Mr. Sigurdsson. And it's like, I didn't mean anything by it. I just like, please read the directions and tell me what you don't understand. So in that sense, it's almost like, a lawyer in a courtroom. You got to go through the motions. You got to go through reading the directions before you just, you're entitled not to understand. It sounds rude, but is that rude to say? You have to read the material before you're entitled not to understand. But in the computer age, you wouldn't get that in the classroom. I still teach in the classroom. No one, after I give a lecture, no one will raise their hand and say, Mr. Sigurdsson, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. It's like, because I just talked for like 15 minutes about it, But online, it's the tendency sometimes is you get overwhelmed. I'm not saying you're a bad person or have a low IQ or anything. It happens to the best of us, in this day and age in our society. And you kind of glaze over, you kind of don't read it, and then you just say, I don't understand. So anyway, enough on that. I don't mean to belabor that. It's not a huge pet peeve of mine, but if I get an email like that, I just will be a little more diplomatic than I used to be. I won't say, please read the directions and then let me know what you don't understand. I'm better than that now. I've learned how to tippy-toe around and be super diplomatic online. There is an art form to it, you know, and that's worth thinking about when you're in the class too. There's an art form to how you come across on a computer. And, you know, I have a pretty thick skin because I pretty much heard it all. But, you know, to the other students, when you're communicating with them, just do bear in mind, you know, read the little blurb on etiquette. There's a blurb under, let's see, where is that? Course materials and course information, yeah. And there's one on netiquette, it's called. So read that. Internet etiquette. I made that word up. I thought it was so cool. It's probably already a word. I probably reinvented the wheel, but when I saw netiquette, I thought it was pretty cool for coming up with that. So it's pretty simple, you know, and pretty basic, but worth taking a look at that. So nice to have you in the class, and thanks for watching my little spiel. Sorry it got a little bit long, and that's another thing in this day and age. You know, an 11-minute, 11-second lecture wouldn't be very long in the classroom, but online, on a little video, people are just like, oh my God, it's over 10 minutes. I can't watch it, right? So I've learned that too, to keep my videos down in length. So see, I'm learning. You can teach an old dog new tricks. And I've got a new dog. I'm teaching it old tricks. I don't know. Anyway, have a good one.